BT has announced that 10,000 jobs will go by March 2009 as the company tries to reduce costs. Most of the job losses will be with contract and agency staff. BT employs 160,000 people worldwide.
10,000 job cuts, I mean, it's a massive amount of jobs, the vast majority of which are going to be contracted to the agency. And what we've been doing is making clear to the company that we won't accept compulsory redundancies. And to be fair to Ian Livingston, his statements made it clear that there wouldn't be. So we'll obviously respect that. What we need to do now is work out the detail of that, and we will be meeting with the company to get the real detail through that.
While the CWU is not represented within Yell and Virgin Media, the union is calling on the companies to avoid compulsory redundancies.
There's been massive job cuts announced, 2,200 in Virgin Media, for example, a few hundreds in Yell. But again, it's our members that's involved there. We will do everything possible to make sure those redundancies, if they come about, are done by voluntary means. And I think that's the most important for us.
Turning to the government, the union wants a commitment that all workers made redundant will be retrained under government-backed training schemes.
We will be making the argument to the companies and to government about reskilling this workforce. They're a highly skilled workforce, and it's important that we get the government to do something about it too.
Royal Mail engineers employed by the agency Romec at Portcullis House in Westminster protested outside the building recently against enforced work rosters. The CWU members were joined by MPs. The protest followed several attempts by the engineers who carry out building, maintenance and electrical repairs at Portcullis House to reach an agreement with Romec.
It follows 3 days of strike action which Romec members have already taken. That was also very well supported. There have been picket lines outside a number of major Royal Mail buildings today, and we've got very good support from our colleagues in Royal Mail who now understand what the dispute is about.
In all, over 800 members went on strike across the country in support of the engineers. The CWU objects to Romec's attempt to impose fixed shifts from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. without unsocial hours payments and opposes the call-out obligation. The union demands a proper reward for working unsocial hours and wants members to have the final say on any proposed agreement.
We hope that Romec will come back to the negotiating table. The union remains willing to negotiate an agreement. It's now up to Romec.
The European Parliament has voted overwhelmingly in favour of giving more rights to agency workers, bringing to an end a 6-year battle to give these workers the same rights as full-time workers.
We've achieved one step of this campaign. We haven't actually fulfilled what we're campaigning for, which is equal treatment for agency workers, but it means we've overcome significant hurdles at a European level to get where we are now.
The new law will guarantee equal rights for 1.3 million agency workers after 12 weeks of employment. It does not cover occupational social security schemes. The government has 3 years to turn the EU law into national law.
What's ahead is more campaigning, more work, not just at national level. We will need our agency members, we will need our branches to campaign with us to ensure that this legislation is properly implemented at UK level.
Kay Gibbs, one of the original Bristol 3, who worked in a delivery office in the southwest, has got her old job back in a nearby delivery office following a year-long campaign supported by the CWU. Kay was sacked by Royal Mail just over a year ago for taking part in the national postal dispute.
Royal Mail, their case was built on sand, and 48 hours before Kay was due to go to an industrial tribunal, they capitulated and made her a realistic job offer that she was only too happy to accept. We've still got to get an acceptable resolution to the money that Kay's owed, because at the current time Royal Mail are still being a bit silly about that and denying that she should have had certain bonuses, but we will get round that, and she will get all the money that she's due.
Together, Kay and her colleagues Colin Tucker and Paula Franklin made up the Bristol 3. Tucker and Franklin returned to work at mail centres on their own terms several months ago. At the height of the Bristol 3 campaign, around 300 CWU members and friends from other unions marched through the city demanding justice for the Bristol 3.
Well, Royal Mail have been using the bullying and harassment procedure as a stick to beat people with who supported the union during last year's dispute. And we now want senior managers to take a long, hard look at the way they and other people that were involved in this web of deceit have applied the process, and make sure they learn lessons from it in the future.
Also sacked at the time of the national postal dispute were several workers in Burslem and Stoke. These cases are still outstanding.
Of the 6 that have been sacked now for the last 6 months, 3 of them are waiting decisions from the National Appeals Panel. Once those decisions come through, they'll then reflect on the other 3. Dave Ward, the Deputy General Secretary, has made an unprecedented request to go before that National Appeals Panel to talk them through the fact that national negotiations are now ongoing into changing the process that's been used and applied to those in Burslem.
Good morning, CWU Disability Awareness hotline.
For the 5th year running, the CWU held a Disability Awareness Week hotline in October that allowed members with disabilities to phone in and raise any concerns with advisors.
Well, I would actually go to your manager and say that in your opinion you've been advised that you're covered under the Disability Discrimination Act, and they have a duty to let you attend your appointment.
Tony Snedden runs the hotline.
The main feedback that we do get from telephone calls is, are they covered under the Disability Discrimination Act? Which there seems to be a great resentment from the employer to actually say that they're covered, which obviously has a really knock-on effect for their working environment. For example, does the employer have to make reasonable adjustments? If they incur any sick leave due to their disability, does it go to the attendance procedure, which is one of the biggest bugbears within the various industries, and people are being discriminated against because they're having to take sick leave because of their disability. And under the Disability Discrimination Act, these absences should be discounted.
The hotline has grown from strength to strength, with more members telephoning each year.
This initiative is being supported by Royal Mail Group, indeed so much that on the plasma screens in Royal Mail offices and post office counters, they're putting adverts on with the telephone number to encourage members to phone in. It has also been picked up by Able2, which is a network resource in British Telecom, and they have their own intranet site, so the number is actually on the intranet site within BT.